Why pick a salsa whose recipe probably came from a boardroom when there's one that came from a real Mexican restaurant? Chi-Chi's Salsa, now at your grocer's.
Channel 5's Pauletta Longo, keeping you in touch.
This is nature's fury unleashed tonight. All along the Gulf Coast, they've been forewarned. But how does anyone defend against this? Tonight, a close look at man versus nature as Andrew comes calling.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
To put things plainly, this broadcast tonight will be about as unstructured and unpredictable as a hurricane. We know what we want to do. Indeed, we have a number of correspondents stationed this evening at various locations along the Gulf Coast of Louisiana, and a number of people who live along that same coast who have agreed to talk with us by phone. The problem is a simple one. Where communications are good is where the hurricane has not yet hit. Where the weather is worst, where high winds have started sweeping in off the Gulf, communications are being strained. Bear with us and we'll try and bring you up to speed on Hurricane Andrew's course, velocity, and power. And insofar as we can, we'll talk to people on the ground who are in the path of the storm. It looks at the moment as though the leading edge of the hurricane will be over Morgan City, Louisiana, in just about half an hour. Stationed at Morgan City, he drove in there about an hour ago, is my colleague Dave Marash, the first of the people that we're not going to be able to reach. I hope to be able to get to David just a little bit later. To the northwest of Morgan City, however, is my colleague Mike Schneider, who is, I believe, in Lafayette, Louisiana. Mike, it looks like the proverbial calm before the storm where you are.
They really sense that here, Ted, and they really consider this to be something along the lines of a worst-case scenario for Lafayette, because the blessing of New Orleans is the curse of Lafayette. The people here watched the hurricane drift along to the west all afternoon long, as I did too. I originally came down figuring that we'd do our broadcast from New Orleans. And we followed the storm as it moved along the west coast, stopping at Baton Rouge, and when it appeared the storm was drifting further to the west, we came here. Now the people here are watching and waiting, and there's a certain degree of anxiety building up, because the longer that storm stays out there, they know the stronger it gets, and ultimately they know it's heading, they sense, right in this direction.
Have people evacuated that area at all, Mike, or that far inland? And perhaps you should tell us how far from the coastal waters of the Gulf you are people essentially staying put?
We are approximately 24 miles from the coastal waters, Ted. As I point over the camera, that is to the south. That is where the Gulf is. That is where the hurricane is right now. The area of Lafayette encompasses somewhere in the neighborhood of 600,000 people. We are told that somewhere around 100,000 have been evacuated to shelters under mandatory evacuations. Most of those people are the ones in the southern parishes, the three parishes or counties, as you might have it, that are directly along the Gulf Coast itself. Others, though, closer to here also sense the danger. They've seen the pictures from Miami. They know how devastating the storm is. And not too far away from here is a dome stadium where somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 people are spending the night.
All right, Mike Schneider, thank you very much. Just to the southeast of Mike Schneider in New Iberia, Louisiana, is our colleague Mike von Fremd. Mike, I take it you're about 10 miles closer to the Gulf than Mike Schneider. Again, it looks pretty quiet.
It's quiet now. You're right. I should be feeling the storm about probably an hour before it gets up to Mike. I just drove down from there. I'm by a courthouse, Ted, that was built in 1939, which is really substantial. I just talked to the people that are running the civil defense here. They say that there was a voluntary evacuation, that most of the people in low-lying areas have gotten out of Dodge, but there's ample facilities for as many as 4,000 who haven't, when things start to get bad, to come in and take really substantial shelter. This area they make the oil rigs that are used down south that the people have been brought back on yesterday. They also grow a lot of sugarcane here. They do a lot of fishing. And right now they're pretty nervous when they heard Bob Sheets just a while ago saying that the eye of the storm could kind of skip across and go over Lafayette. They know that it's a bullseye here because we're just to the south of Lafayette.
All right, Mike von Fremd, thank you very much. I'm going to do something a little dangerous without having been told by my colleagues. I see a picture in one of our monitors here of Dave Marash, who does not look quite as comfortable as Mike von Fremd. Dave, it looks as though it's raining where you are. By your smiling visage, I take it that you can hear me. Can you talk back to me?
I can, Ted. I am on a seawall about 30 feet high along the Alachifalaya River in Fort Morgan, Louisiana, in Morgan City, Louisiana, which is about 80 miles west-southwest of New Orleans, and at about an hour and a half is where the eye of the hurricane is expected to pass just to the west, which would mean this will be a very dangerous place because, as you know, if you think of the hurricane as having sort of a right front bumper, that is where the most dangerous winds in the counterclockwise direction are coming, and they should be ripping right through this town of Morgan City. Now, in the 80-mile drive that we made here just a couple of hours ago from New Orleans, we saw evidence of several tornadoes that had touched down, one of them strong enough to have picked up a pickup truck, swept it off the road, overturned it, and dumped it half submerged into a swamp by the left side of the road. So I think we're in store for a fairly violent night of weather here in Morgan City.
Now, Dave, I don't think you could hear the beginning of the program. I started to say that I know you had just arrived there really within the past hour. So obviously you haven't had much of a chance to drive around town and do any reporting on the town. But do you happen to know how large a community it normally is and how many of the people are still around waiting for the storm to hit?
We've been told, Ted, I would guess that the metropolitan area here in Morgan City is somewhere in the area of 80 to 90,000 people, and about half of them have left town. We did see several hundred people gathered in a school, which is one of the 2 evacuation centers in this town for people who didn't want to leave the city and would ride out the storm here, and it looked quite full. We could see faces in all of the windows of people sitting and watching this storm develop, and believe me, in the last 20 minutes they've had a lot to look at because it is really starting to blow now.
Tell us a little bit about the topography along there. One of the great blessings, and we can only hope that it continues to be so, is that New Orleans, which of course is below sea level, is not going to receive the full brunt of this storm. But what about Morgan City?
The topography is similar here to New Orleans. This is, again, very low-lying land right down below me, 30 feet at the riverbank level. Again, I think you're right at or perhaps a couple of feet below sea level, so that this is very dangerous territory once the waters start to flow here. It is flat land. I don't think that we elevated more than 8 or 9 inches one way or the other between here and New Orleans, and between Morgan City and the shore is a mass of bayous and swamps and low grounds, so there really isn't too much between us and the Gulf of Mexico.
All right, Dave Marash, we'll be coming to you a little bit later in this broadcast as the storm comes even closer to you. We turn now to Bob Sheets, whom all of you around the country I know have been hearing again and again and again over these past couple of days. Dr. Sheets is the director of the National Hurricane Center, where he joins us now in Coral Gables, Florida. Bob, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you fine, Ted.
All right, velocity, direction, all the customary things that everyone is asking you. We all want to know the same thing. Where is it, and how fast is it going, and how bad is it going to be?
Well, I think Dave is going to be able to tell you very quickly, except he's probably going to lose communications because the eye wall is going to move over that Morgan City area here. As he was talking about, that's just starting now. You're getting the leading edge of that eye wall. We expect winds there certainly to exceed 100 miles per hour in that eye wall region.
Over the water, as the storm has been gathering up speed again, only a couple of hours ago, Bob, the velocity of the storm was 140 miles an hour. What's been happening to it?
Well, it's starting to decrease a little bit because of that eye wall is getting over land there, so it's probably dropping 10 to 20 miles per hour over the last hour or so, and so it'll start to decrease a little bit.
What about that tidal surge that you talk about all the time?
Well, that's going to be not nearly as much as it would if the storm were coming in from the south, because around the hurricane, the winds are circulating around the hurricane in a counterclockwise fashion, so they're not going to have a long time to blow that water ashore. So in that region, Morgan City and so on, maybe 10 feet, maybe 12. So of course, that's significant in itself.
And one more quick question as far as New Orleans is concerned. Earlier this evening, when you and I spoke, you told me it was probably going to get the easternmost edge of the storm. How are things looking now?
I think that's exactly what happened there. I've had some reports there. They got some gusts up to about hurricane force in the outer bands there. Maybe tornadoes are going to be the biggest problem in that region.
All right, Bob Sheets, thank you very much indeed. While most people on the ground are trying to put distance between themselves and Hurricane Andrew, a group of Air Force reservists has been looking the storm in the eye, literally. They are storm trackers who fly into the hurricane's eye while it's over water to gather weather data. We hope now to be in communication with the chief meteorologist for the trackers, Lieutenant Colonel Gale Carter, who at this moment is monitoring Andrew over the Gulf. Colonel Carter, can you hear me? Over.
I just can't hear you, Ted. We're 20 miles south of Hurricane Andrew's eye at the moment, getting ready to punch through the eye wall. Over.
Now, you and I spoke earlier this evening just on the off chance that we wouldn't be able to talk live, so assume that we haven't talked about any of this. Just tell me how bad this storm is compared to the ones that you've known over the past few years. And I should point out, you're a veteran at this kind of thing. Over.
Right, I've been flying storms 16 years. This is one of the strongest storms I've flown. It reminds me of Hurricane Allen in 1980, but this storm, I believe, is rougher. 2 nights ago, when it coasted in at Miami, it was one of the roughest rides I've had penetrating an eye. Over.
What is it that you were able to see yesterday over Miami as the edge of the storm came in, and to what extent is that being paralleled now as you fly over Morgan City? Over.
Roger, we flew from Boston Air Force Base. We flew south down to the Miami area. We saw a steady stream of headlights headed northbound out of Miami. As we got nearer to Miami and the storm got nearer the shore, we could see some lights in the city. They gradually, some of them flickered out as the storm progressed. Lots of blue arcing that we guessed were highline wires that were being blown down and caused sparks and transformers blowing up. It looked like a flash bulb going off at a concert.
Now, Morgan City obviously is a much smaller area, but are you seeing anything of that at all this evening? Over.
The only lights we've seen are some oil rigs. We're in clouds right now, and we're unable to see any lights on the ground at this time. It's like riding a roller coaster blindfolded up here right now. We have a little stronger turbulence than earlier in the evening. Over.
All right, Colonel Carter, one more question. Essentially, you're up there to measure the velocity, the size, the power of that storm. To what degree are you able to give us any numbers or any sense of the size and power of Andrew?
Inbound for the storm, we found 125 knot winds. That's at 10,000 feet altitude, so it could be much different to that on the ground. The central pressure was somewhat higher than we expected, about 950 millibars. The track we can't determine real well, but it appears to be moving along the forecast track. Over.
Colonel Carter, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking time out from what you're doing to spend a little time with us with what we're doing. When we come back, the unfolding scenes of Andrew in action. And we'll talk to the governor of Louisiana.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by the Discover Card.
So you just got a cash advance, did you? Too bad you used an ordinary credit card, because you could be carrying some very heavy interest charges. Why not carry the Discover Card? Just pay your full monthly balance and a small transaction fee, and we'll forget the interest, which means our money comes with no strings attached. It pays to discover.
The Lexus Coupe can be equipped with a cellular phone that allows you to dial, answer, and hang up without ever letting go of the wheel. Proving once you get your hands on a Lexus, they tend to stay that way.
I'm not sure if you know this, but the reason we have to keep our eyes closed when we sneeze is to simply stop them from popping out. If you fear the same may happen to you walking down the paint aisle, with all those confusing labels and monstrous prices, then just look out for Ed Wiggins' Private Stock. It's not only as good a quality of paint as you can get, the instructions are so easy, you could probably follow them blindfolded.
Outside flat paint on sale at Menards, only $9.79.
He may be the most abused man in America, but Dan Quayle tells Chris Wallace he's got a whole new image. You decide. Watch Primetime Thursday.
We anticipate that within the next hour, the edge of Hurricane Andrew will be hitting Morgan City, Louisiana, where my colleague Dave Marash is standing by. We do have some video that was taken within the last few minutes of the first part of the leading edge. You can see the trees begin to bend under the force of those winds. My guess is that those winds at this point are probably only about 50 or 60 miles an hour. As you heard Bob Sheets say a little bit earlier, by the time the storm makes landfall, the winds will be up to 100 miles an hour plus. Governor Edwin Edwards has been taking the measure of Andrew and its expected toll on the state. He joins us now live from our affiliate in Baton Rouge, WBRZ. Governor Edwards, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
You have already, I know, made a request of the federal government. You're anticipating the worst. Based on what, sir?
I certainly am. As we sat in horror and watched this thing move across Florida and then saw the direction it took after it hit the Gulf, we knew we were in trouble. Thank goodness we were wise enough to be prudent and get out of its way, which is the only real defense we have against a monster of this nature.
Give us a sense, sir, of what kinds of steps the state has taken and to what degree you are enforcing evacuation or just telling people, if you're as smart as we think you are, get out of the way.
Oh, no, sir. We enforced evacuations in the coastal parishes beginning as early as yesterday evening and all through this day, but most people just voluntarily left. We have 72 evacuation centers in 22 different parishes and about 25,000 people already evacuated to those areas. The National Guard, of course, has been very active for the past 24 hours, the state police, all local officials, and we have already asked for a declaration of federal disaster so we could begin to move as early as possible to repair the damage and rehabilitate people in their homes.
Over the past couple of days, I know that your worst nightmare was that New Orleans was going to be hit. I mean, here you have a huge metropolitan area below sea level. I was looking at some of the numbers earlier this evening. I gather that as many as 1.6 million people evacuated from New Orleans. Have any of those headed back in again now, hearing some of those early forecasts that the storm was going to miss it?
Oh, no, sir, and please let me urge everybody listening to this not to attempt to return back to the hurricane area at all until we announce that it's safe to do so. In the wake of this kind of hurricane, there are great propensity for tornadoes. As a matter of fact, one hit about an hour ago at Laplace, Louisiana, between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. About 20 people are hospitalized, some very seriously. 7 miles of homes and subdivisions have been demolished, and there's a great propensity for reoccurring tornadoes in the vanguard and in the wake of this kind of a hurricane.
Governor Edwards, I have heard of something called vertical evacuation in New Orleans in particular. In other words, if you can't get people out of town, you get them to the highest point in the highest building in town. Can you explain how that works?
Well, the city, of course, is anywhere from 2 to 8 feet below sea level, and it sits like a saucer or a bowl in a marsh area. It is very vulnerable to flooding as winds drive water out of the Gulf and through Lake Borgne and Lake Pontchartrain. So those people that we could not get out or would not get out, we are moving to multi-storied buildings that have firm foundations so that if in fact 7, 8, or 10 feet of water were to hit the city, they would be saved from drowning. But that is not the best way to avoid this kind of a problem. To move out is the best way, and we have evacuated as many people as we could humanly get out of the city for that reason.
Tell us what we need to know about Morgan City. This is the area that's literally going to be hit within the next few minutes.
It appears that way, and Morgan City is a town on the Chapelaya River. It is also very low. It is surrounded by marsh areas on all sides, except in one area, cane fields to the north and west. If the hurricane hits there, as it appears it will be, there will be some very serious consequences because of the fact that it's so close to sea level and it's unrestricted in any direction, and the winds are just going to sweep across there without any kind of obstruction, and clearly is going to create some very serious problems.
Governor Edwards, good of you to take the time this evening. Thank you for talking.
Thank you for your prayers and your concern.
Thank you, sir. We'll try and go back to Morgan City and Dave Marash after this break.
Painting your house shouldn't mean a second mortgage. Just get to Sears' Whole House Paint Sale. Pick up Sears Best Weather Beater Exterior Flat, only $15.99 a gallon. Easy Living Interior Semi-Gloss or Satin finishes and matching bright white ceiling paint. All only $13.99 a gallon. Get to the whole house paint sale today.
I'll be at Sears.
And save money at Sears.
You can count on me.
Hi, and it's going to play 148 on St. Andrews, Power 119. Thank you, 1%.
Of all the things around your house that need batteries, there's one thing that needs a good, fresh battery most of all. See your Allstate agent for a free home fire safety brochure. And please, check the battery in your smoke detector often.
Wanna do plain Raisin Bran one better? Go nut! Take the raisin and the almond nut and put them both together. Cover raisins with the almond nut and make it all taste better. Raisin Nut Bran! Nut covered raisins all it takes. Raisin Nut Bran! Plus almond chunks and crispy flakes for a hearty, nuttier taste than plain old Raisin Bran. Add the raisin and the almond nuts, you're gonna like it better. Why stop at raisins when you can go nuts? Try Raisin Nut Bran.
They keep secrets here. Information big business wants to keep quiet. What's inside these files could save your life, but you'll never know. 2020, Friday.
Still hoping to go to Dave Marash in Morgan City in just a moment, but first, Nick Richard is a police lieutenant in Thibodaux, Louisiana. He and his girlfriend have left their trailer home and are waiting out the storm in a hotel. Lieutenant, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right, tell us how things are looking in Thibodaux. I should point out that's just a little bit to the northeast of Morgan City, right?
Yes, sir. We're about 32 miles northeast of Morgan City. At the present time, I'm looking out the window of the Howard Johnson's where I evacuated to, and trees have been blowing rather strongly. We've had some lulls, but it's blowing up again now. I'd have estimated about 45 miles an hour at this time.
And how have people been doing in terms of, I don't know to what degree they've been evacuating Thibodaux and where they would be going, or what precautions people have been taking?
Well, our local chief of police, Chief Diaz, has gotten with the mayor and put the word out that the low-lying areas of the city requesting that people do evacuate and make plans to move. And we have, in fact, opened up some shelters in the city of Thibodaux. And at this time, we have 3 of them that are full. They're opening Nicholls State University, which is located in Thibodaux, to accept some of these other people from the lower Lafourche parish, which is not far from Morgan City. They've been evacuating all day long.
All right. Anything else you need to tell us about what's going on there or precautions people are taking?
No, so these people, we're pretty used to hurricanes in this area. Thibodaux is actually a branch-off point from some many evacuation routes, and everything seemed to be going good. I came on at 6 o'clock this morning, and it was a steady stream of people and boats and just their belongings, just trying to make it further north from this particular area.
All right, Lieutenant Richard, our hopes and prayers are with you and the folks of Thibodaux also. Thank you so much for being with us. Let me go back now to my colleague Dave Marash, who's still standing upright. That's good news in and of itself.
Leaning into the wind, Ted. You know, one of the beauties of reporting is that we become instant experts, and when you go to the story, you get to experience what you've been spouting your expertise about. In the last 20 minutes or so, Ted, we have observed the counterclockwise movement of the winds. They started out coming very strongly northwest, moved north, and now they are whipping around from the northeast. This leads us to believe that eye wall of the hurricane is moving very, very close to Morgan City now. About a minute and a half ago, we lost some street lights here, and we gained a little celestial lighting, a little electricity from the sky, and again, an indication that the eye wall, the upper right-hand corner, if you will, of the storm, the northeast quadrant of the storm where the strongest winds can be expected, are all getting very close to Morgan City right now, and we are looking for the eye to be here within the next 30 to 90 minutes.
All right, Dave, I know you mix prudence with courage. At what point have the experts around there told you to get, and we see some flashes of something or other over your right shoulder. What is that? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea, Ted. It's clearly some kind of electrical discharge. It is behind the row of buildings that is across this street that fronts on the seawall along the Atchafalaya River here in Morgan City. Now it has subsided, so my guess is that we had a live wire blown down because we just had a pretty substantial gust, and now it seems to have gone out again. But, yeah, we're going to try and mix a little bit of common sense with reporting daring do, and I think we'll probably get below ground pretty quickly.
All right, David, thank you very much. Be safe, and thanks for your reporting. We'll be back in just a moment.
Another summer, another 2 inches. Another reason to get to Sears. Right now, all kids' jeans, all the right brands, are all on sale. Hurry.
Some things you just can't be sure of, like blind dates. But when I want to feel naturally fresh, I trust Massengill Vinegar and Water Douche with natural ingredients. I love that fresh, clean feeling.
Trust Massengill.
Designed to run like a watch. Just strap it on.
Whoa, you looked scarier 25 years ago.
Did I?
You looked scared.
I don't know. I thought I hit it well for an innocent groom.
You were innocent for the 60s.
Any regrets?
None. You?
Just one.
What?
That I waited 25 years to give you
the 25th anniversary diamond, a brilliant celebration of the loving marriage.
I've got goosebumps.
Well, you've given me goosebumps for 25 years.
Some full commission brokers are finding more and more ways to charge more and more fees, even annual fees on IRAs, just for the privilege of doing business with them. But not us. At Charles Schwab, we offer the no-fee IRA, and we guarantee that you'll never pay an annual fee for the rest of your life. So if you're tired of finding new fees every time you open your statement,
maybe it's time to come to Schwab.
On the next Good Morning America, live reports on Hurricane Andrew's path across the Gulf Coast. Then what do women really know about cars? Plus Jimmy Connors on Good Morning America.
Late word throughout the night on ABC. That's our report. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
This has been Nightline.
Nightline is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Where's Dad?
Tim Allen's taken home improvement to a brand new night.
How'd you guys get here?
Home Improvement, Wednesday at 9, 8 Central. Then the policeman takes a holiday.
Over by the resort, they have these beaches that are clothing optional.
It's delightfully loony.
But, I'm a policeman.
Arresting behavior, Wednesday.
Spotty drizzle overnight with a low in the 50s.